Are you familiar with the butterfly effect? For those who aren't, the butterfly effect is the idea that any small event, like a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil, can have huge lasting consequences, like causing a tornado in Texas. Possibly the best example of the butterfly effect on the show, ironically enough, comes from good old butterfly butt herself, Fluttershy, in the episode Hurricane Fluttershy. In that episode, a small event, a single Pegasus with below-average flying ability gaining confidence, had huge lasting consequences. The Ponyville ponies were able to get the water to Cloudsdale so that Equestria would have its yearly supply of rainwater. In this series, we'll be taking a look at this kind of thing. We'll take a single event, change it up a little, and see how it would affect the ponies in the world around them. In this episode, we'll look at what would happen to the main six if Rainbow Dash would have never pulled off the Sonic Rainboom in Cutie Chronicles. Now let's assume that during her race against Dumbbell and Hoops, she flies at just under the speed necessary to pull off the Rainboom, but still fast enough to easily handle the bullies. We now know that all of the main six got their cutie marks as a result of the Sonic Rainboom in one way or another. But what if that never happened? And for the sake of ease, let's go in order from least affected to most affected. The least affected would be Fluttershy. The Sonic Rainboom helped her by scaring away the animals, and when she went to comfort them, that's when she discovered her ability to talk to animals and got her cutie mark. But it's not like she could just fly back to Cloudsdale, seeing as how she was a very poor flyer at that point in her life. She either had to wait until someone came down to pick her up, she learned how to fly better, or maybe she just stayed on the ground and never returned to Cloudsdale until the events of Sonic Rainboom. But honestly, she seemed pretty enamored with the animals, so odds are that she would have hung around with them long enough for one of them to say something. She'd then realize that she can understand them, discovering her ability and getting her cutie mark. Either way, the only thing that would change would be that she would have gotten her cutie mark just a little later than she actually did. Next would be Applejack. The rainbow from the Rainboom pointed back to Sweet Apple Acres, prompting AJ to return to the farm and her family. But she was miserable in Manhattan and desperately wanted to go home, so even if the Rainboom hadn't happened, AJ still would have probably returned to the farm sooner or later. Like with Fluttershy, the only difference in AJ's new cutie mark story would be that she'd get her cutie mark at a later time. It might be a couple days later or a few months later, depending on how much more of Manhattan she could handle, but either way, Applejack would have left Manhattan and returned to Ponyville eventually. Next would be the one who set this whole question off, Rainbow Dash. Now under this situation, she'd travel fast enough to beat the bullies, but not fast enough to achieve Rainboom status. This wouldn't affect Rainbow too much, since she'd still get her cutie mark during this race, but I don't think it would be this cutie mark. You see, this cutie mark somewhat references the Rainboom, but if that never happened, she'd need a different cutie mark. Since she discovered her love for racing during that race, maybe her new cutie mark could be a checkered flag or something, but otherwise, she'd leave the race relatively unchanged. Now we start to get into ponies whose lives would be pretty significantly changed if the Rainboom had never happened. Rarity would be the next most affected. She got her cutie mark when the Sonic Rainboom split the geode, revealing the gems inside, which she used in her school play's, interesting costumes. But had the Rainboom never happened, her magic would have just led her to the rock, and she'd have no idea why. She'd never find the gems, her costumes wouldn't look that interesting. She'd be dissatisfied with how her costumes would come out, and given how she was worried that she wouldn't be a great fashionista before her magic led her to the rock, this disappointing showing might make her consider not becoming a fashion designer. Now, there's a fairly decent chance that Rarity does keep the dream alive, and with hard work, dedication to her craft, and possibly another magic surge, she maintains her path to her destiny, but that would very much be the best case scenario. Then we come to Twilight. The Sonic Rainboom really did save Twilight's ass. Because of the Rainboom, her God Mode powers were unlocked, attracting the attention of Princess Celestia. That wouldn't have happened without the Rainboom, meaning she'd never become Celestia's protege. Another notable change would be that Twilight would have never hatched Spike. Now, there's a common fan theory about Twilight's test. It states that the test isn't whether or not the prospective students can hatch the egg. If it was, there'd be a lot more dragons hanging around, since every student going to the school would have to hatch a dragon egg, and Spike appears to be the only dragon in regular pony society. Instead, the test is designed to see how the pony tries to hatch the egg, what spells it would use, how the pony solves problems, etc. That would also explain why this would require 4 judges, since I'm pretty sure it wouldn't take 4 judges to decide whether or not the egg was hatched or not. But given how smart Twilight is, she'd probably get into the school, but she'd be just another pony in the crowd, trying to stand out from the other students. The only reason I'm not putting her in the final spot on this list is because it's possible that Twilight still could attract Celestia's attention. Perhaps if she were to do something amazing in some class, the teacher could alert Princess Celestia, and she could end up becoming Celestia's protege again. But the odds of that are pretty long. The final pony, however, has a change to her story that seems almost insurmountable. And that pony is Pinkie Pie. Pinkie's life took a complete 180 when the Sonic Rainboom happened. She went from sad, silent, and friendless to joyous, talkative, and beloved. But had the Rainboom never happened, she'd most likely stay on the rock farm. Based on what we saw, the Pie family had very little interaction with the outside world. And her family looks like the kind of ponies who've been working on the farm for generations, so there's very little reason to think that would change with Pinkamena. Speaking of Pinkamena, she'd still be in her Pinkamena form, since the Rainboom was what poofed her hair and turned her into the Pinkie Pie we all know and love. And as a fun thought, what if Pinkamena would still be there when Trixie got there? What if they became friends? Pinkie certainly has the capacity. What if Trixie told Pinkamena about how she thought the Ponyvillians wronged her, Pinkamena sympathizes with Trixie, and they team up to take on Ponyville? Oh, that would be scary. And there you have it. So many changes would happen with the simple act of a Pegasus flying just a little slower in a casual grade school race. That's the beauty of the butterfly effect. A single seemingly inconsequential moment can have life-altering results. And thanks for watching. If you have anything to add to this idea, or you have your own opinion about this, don't be shy about leaving a comment. And if you have an idea for a future episode of the Butterfly Effect, let me know. I read all the comments, and I'll let you know if I can do it. I'm not sure if I can do them all, but I will do my favorites. See y'all later!